If I can have everyone's attention, can you hear me? If I can have everyone's attention, it's 3 o'clock, and if we can, go ahead and get our meeting started. Everyone should have received a copy of the agenda for today. I am going to take a motion and not take a motion, but make it an adjustment to the agenda. I would like to move the election of a chairperson to the forefront so that that chairperson can then approve or obtain the vote to approve the last set of minutes. Do I have anyone that is in disagreement with that move? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to our secretary, and if you don't mind, doing the election of a chairperson.
Board members, do you all have anyone that you'd like to nominate for the chairperson?
Ethelyn Riley. I second.
Okay. All the votes for Ethelyn Riley for the chairperson. Can I see a show of hands? Okay. All right, any opposed? That's no, I understand. All right. All right, Ms. Ethelyn will be the chairperson.
Can we also vote on the co-chair?
The co-chairperson has to be appointed by the chairperson, according to the bylaws. Do we want to go ahead and do that today?
Do I do that now?
Do we need to go ahead and do that today?
There's no reason why you can't, but I am going to ask if you would move your seat from where you are to the center so that the secretary can see you in the event that she can't hear you. Sorry about that, Lori. That way everybody can see our chair. It used to be that was the control of the mics, but it's no longer that way, so. But at least we know who our chair is.
Okay, Ethelyn, would you like to nominate someone for your co-chairperson?
Yes, I was wondering if we should wait till we have more members, or if it would be appropriate to do it.
That is strictly your call, because we have a quorum at this point in time, so it's strictly your call.
All right, well, since we've got so much to do today, let's put that off for just a little bit.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, could I get a motion to approve the minutes, please? Everybody got their copy of their minutes in front of them?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as so written.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions about the monthly reports? I'm looking for them. Thank you. Oh, I know, they're right here.
Are the August reports available yet? Okay.
All right, if there are no questions then, do we move to approve them or just? Okay. No questions, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Shannon Emery, Parvo outbreak.
With the current Parvo outbreaks, we've had 4 closures due to Parvo since, or up until September 5th with the distemper. What steps have been taken to prevent that in the future? I guess so.
Okay, fine. Let me go ahead and just say this. So Parvo is no stranger to any intake facility. Most of us that are in the animal industry already know that.
Is your mic on?
Either. I apologize. Do I need to repeat it, or am I good? Okay. All right. So with that being said, let me just say that Animal Care and Control are taking the appropriate measures. As you know, we don't have a veterinarian right now. We're working on that. We have almost finalized an agreement with a rescue to handle all of our intake vaccinations, and once that has been done, then that will be made public. Parvo is hit or miss. A puppy can come in, get the shot, and the next thing you know, they break out with it. Of course, we're trying to keep them isolated, if you will, with the mother. But what we're looking forward to the most is having a new veterinarian who will come in and give us different methods or different ways that we could reduce the outbreak of Parvo.
Are they being vaccinated now when they come in?
Not yet, no ma'am. And that is because we are still under a 30-day quarantine, so nothing can come in, so there's nothing to vaccinate at this point in time coming in new into the shelter until, I think our next official open day will be Tuesday.
So all the dogs currently in residence there have been vaccinated?
I'd have to go back and look at those records. I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay. So they're not vaccinated automatically when they come in?
Yes, however, with the investigation that took place, a lot of things happened that prevented us from being able to do that. But one of the things that we are working out with the new rescue is to come in and do everything that is in the shelter.
And when you say new rescue, what is that?
The rescue that we're working on the MOU to have all of our vaccinations taken care of by.
Okay.
Is there a timeline on that?
On what?
When you'll know that rescue is, is there a timeline when you'll know if the rescue you have coming in
We'll be able to start.
will be able to start, and if they
Well,
get the
we've
job
got
done?
half the signal, we've got half of the MOU signed. We're just waiting on the city attorney to get our city manager to sign our portion, and we'll be ready to go.
Hi, I have a question. Is there a reason why dogs and cats haven't been getting DAPP and Bordetella since there's no doctor required for that?
Say again, please.
Is there a reason why the dogs and the cats haven't been receiving the DAPP and the Bordetella since a doctor isn't required for that?
From my understanding, they were, but I'd have to go back and look at the records to confirm that
Yeah,
for you.
no, and legally, there's no doctor required for
Okay. So I do know that there were quite a few vaccinations, like I think, what do you call it, B12 and some other things that were on site that were taken by our vet. So with that being said, his last day would have been the last day that any vaccinations were done.
But
I
they're outside.
understand.
Yeah, you can buy them, you don't need a doctor to buy them, so that was just.
I understand that, but we
Okay.
don't even have a shelter manager. So unless there's someone there that knows to do
Right.
that, then it wouldn't be done.
Okay.
So the person that I wanted to answer this question is not here, unfortunately, but what's going to take place in the future to bridge any damage that's been done to rebuild relationship with rescues?
Well, let me first say that I don't know that all of the damage was caused by animal control. I think it is a joint effort amongst people who are working, trying to do their jobs, being accused of things that they were not doing, or spreading lies about the individual. I mean, it's going to take a joint effort between all organizations, as we've done in the past, and we will continue to do, to build those bridges again.
My only concern, I wasn't talking about anything other than rebuilding of the relationships, meaning communication, open communication.
I didn't realize that it had been
It
damaged.
it
other
really
than-
did get bad, honestly.
Okay, so from my understanding, on my knowledge, they were still calling and communicating with rescues every day.
No.
Fortunately not. What I can say is that when Katrina was the acting manager in the shelter at that point, she would make personal phone calls for herself to the rescues. And the open line of communication was always there with her. I do have to give that credit. Unfortunately, when Ms. Kaneda had come in, the communication did stop, and it was either Dee making phone calls or, you know, whoever else, Beth would make the phone calls. It never once came from Kaneda, not one
Okay,
time.
but wait now, and I'm not, go ahead if you, let me let you finish. I think you need, well, let me just say this. Dina, Kaneda, Katrina, anyone that works in the shelter who is directed to call or calls because it's part of their duty, that is animal control communicating with the rescue. I know, in just talking to Courtney, I talk to Courtney when we need to talk. Don't get me wrong, it's not every day. But when I need to talk to Courtney, I have no problem reaching out and talking to Courtney. I don't think Courtney had any issues, or when I say Courtney, I'm saying pause in general, because I do know that part of their staff also communicates with Dee and communicates with Kaneda and communicates with Katrina, or whatever the communication needs to be done at that time. I never, if you're speaking specifically on placements of animals, I do know that there were different methods that we utilized to inform the rescues that we needed assistance by placing or sending out a text, I believe, it would look like every day to me because I would get them every day, asking for that assistance. And of course, I would think that if the rescues had any questions or any concerns, that they would call, knowing that we're short-staffed and we're doing as much as we can at that time. But I was not aware that there was a break, if you will, in communicating. My understanding was that we were still communicating with all the rescues.
Can I chime in? Basically, I have a couple of thoughts about this. It's been a one-way communication since the new shelter manager's been there almost. Emails go unanswered, voicemails go with no callbacks. So I do agree that there's a huge distance right now in that relationship.
Absolutely. And even when we had gone into the office to speak personally with Ms. Kaneda, we were either shut down, unavailable, or laughed at as we're walking out the door.
And I just have a quick question. I don't know what's allowed and what's not allowed, but is she absent, or does she, like, is there a reason why?
She's not here today.
Okay.
So let me just say this, let me offer this. For all of the rescues, if you want to meet with me one-on-one or as a group, I'll be more than glad to do that. But what I'm not gonna do is have a Kaneda bashing meeting. Okay, let's leave it where it is. If there was a problem with communication, then let's fix the communication problem. It's something that I have always, as long as I have been working with animal control, we even used to have a meeting where it was just the division director and the other directors having lunch just to talk about the issues that were going on in the community. We can go back to that. What I'm saying is I am open, I am here, just call on me and we'll set that up and we'll have that conversation.
Lord, people.
We had a licensed behaviorist that offered her services for free at one point in time, and it was refused at that point. Is there a reason why, and how do you go about classifying any dog dangerous without any assessments done or a behaviorist in the building?
Well, first of all, let's clarify something. I've had the offer of behavioralists before, and to my knowledge, the only reason why they weren't there, to my knowledge, is that they weren't there for whatever reason. As far as classification of dogs, let me go ahead and clear the air real quick. We do not classify dogs. When I say we, I'm speaking of animal care and control. What we do is present the evidence from a dog biting incident to this board. We make a recommendation, but it is up to the board to, please be respectful, please. Thank you. We gather all the information, just like any other investigation. We look at it and we say, yeah, no, this dog needs to be classified. We make that recommendation to the board, and the board then determines classification. It can be dangerous, it can be vicious. But all we're doing is making the recommendation to the board. The board deems the classification if there's to be any.
But my follow-up question is this: if that's the case, that it goes to the board as a dangerous incident, and I'm not even talking about the recent, that's not where I'm going with this at all.
I understand.
I'm talking about the dogs previous that were put down due to behavior issues or a dangerous breed, et cetera. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Those never went to the board to be
But those aren't
to be
classified
euthanized.
dogs, am I not correct?
That is correct.
Right.
Correct.
So, okay, so you're talking now about our euthanasia policy. You're not talking about classifications.
Well, I
Because if
am
an
talking
animal,
about
if an animal is not
classifications.
involved in a bite and
Correct.
comes into the facility and is very aggressive towards the staff or other animals or things of that nature, and we are, as you always know, we are challenged with space, we're not gonna go get a highly adoptable dog and put it down when we've got a dog that's not only aggressive to people, but aggressive to other animals, aggressive to the fence. I mean, it just doesn't matter. But if we're being challenged for space, we would rather go with a dog that we don't feel comfortable adopting out to be selected for euthanasia than an animal that is highly adoptable be selected for euthanasia.
And I understand that point as well. But my question was mainly this: in the past, when I pulled certain dogs that were deemed dangerous, I had to sign a form for each dog that I took out of there to rescue. There've been 7 of my signatures on dangerous dog breeds that were deemed dangerous in the shelter. When I went to Kanita about Ichigo,
You're talking names that I don't know.
right,
I'm
right.
being
No,
honest,
it was
I
a
just
little
don't know.
puppy, a little puppy-ish dog, small stature, and had no incidents, no bites, none of that. But she told me that I could not rescue him, and I said I would be willing to sign the form. And she then stated, at that point, I'm not gonna let you do that, I have a feeling. What feeling did she have when she had no interaction with that dog?
Shannon, I cannot express
Right,
what somebody
that's what I
else's
mean,
feeling is.
exactly.
However, I think what you're talking
Right.
about is the hold harmless agreement that we ask anyone who's going to take an animal that we're having challenges with or that we feel is very aggressive. There is a hold harmless agreement that we ask an adopter, a rescue, or whomever is taking it to sign that indemnifies the city of Columbus from any liability for that person that took the dog. It's the same one, I believe, you had a dog that bit your husband, I believe, that you also signed the hold harmless agreement. You did not?
No, that we didn't pull that dog. That
Oh.
dog was in the shelter.
Thank you, Courtney.
That dog was in the shelter,
Right,
correct.
but didn't you take it with you?
We did not. Butler, we did not.
So he bit your husband in the shelter?
Inside the facility, correct.
Okay. I
Yes.
didn't think that was the one, but it is just simply a hold harmless agreement
Yeah.
that you're talking about.
So what's the policy on the certain dogs? Because like I said, I had pulled Lilith, Oreo, I could name quite a few of them that I pulled that were deemed dangerous and we have in our,
Yeah, I did.
adopted. Sorry.
I answered it. What I
But what was
expressed,
the policy when it came to Ichigo? Why
I
was
cannot
he not
answer
given the
questions
same?
on a specific dog. I'd have to go back and pull it. Because I'm not there, so I don't know. I'd have to go back and pull it.
I don't know if am I allowed to just chime in whenever? Okay, so maybe that's something that the board can look at as a policy.
Please.
And I don't know how we do that, but that's something that I personally think needs to be, have a standard, and
I think
what we do
everything-
in these situations.
I think everything needs to be a standard policy, though. You can't have one dog classified dangerous and able to be rescued out, and then one other dog, the same exact thing and not rescued out. The policy has to be down the line, straightforward, period.
I also want to say that I've been on the board since March, and I know there were dangerous classifications made in the early summer, and that was never brought before the board.
We've had one biting dog that we were going to recommend classification that the owner determined that they didn't want to do that, and they surrendered the dog. Outside of that, we have one that is an active case going on right now. That's it, in 2024.
But there were 5 dogs,
Are you talking about, I don't know who you're talking about.
Stacy's dogs.
That is an open and active case right now.
Right.
So that shouldn't have come before the board as being deemed vicious, or?
Well, I think you have it on your list. We can talk about it right now if you like. So in regards to, you're talking about Ms. McDowell's dogs.
Right, I'm just saying that was never brought before the board.
Hold on. We had scheduled a dangerous dog hearing for Ms. McDowell on the 12th. She was arrested and was in jail on the date that her board hearing was set for.
12th of,
I want to say it was August? Was it the 12th of August? I'll be glad to give you the exact date, but we had a board meeting scheduled. She had to go to court. The judge, at that point in time, I wasn't in court, so I can't sit here and give it to you verbatim, but she was sentenced to 180 days in jail. She went to jail. While she was in jail was a date for the classification hearing. Directly following that classification hearing, we didn't have a quorum when we were trying to get a board meeting set up, waiting for her to get out of jail.
we did have a
So
quorum.
we're not gonna do that, but anyway.
I'm just
we-
stating a fact. We
It
did
was
have a
not.
quorum.
You also called and told me that she was being sworn in the day before, but she was not. But let me also say this, whenever we have a new board member come aboard, there is a process, and I'm speaking this to everyone, there is a process that we have to go as a board of the city of Columbus. And all we're trying to do is follow that process. Part of that process is notification from our clerk of council that a new board member has been sworn in. That new board member will receive an email, the same email that our administrative assistant, or administrative coordinator, excuse me, receives, that validates the fact that this person has met the criteria and is now considered on the board. Until that time, there is a roster of board members. We did not have a quorum. But now we do, and we will move forward. Have no problem with that.
And I'll just chime in. I think the concern as a board member right now is that these dogs have been in animal control for.
Over 60 days.
Yes.
And it should have been within,
It should have been notified to the owner within 10
Seven,
days of the
yeah.
dogs being
Which was-
impounded, which it was, but she was in jail. We can't go to jail and hold a meeting.
My understanding is the dogs were taken in July. Is that incorrect?
I would have to get you, I don't know if it was July or not.
It was July.
I can't say the exact date, but I do believe it was in July.
Okay, so if there was a hearing set for August 12th, that's pretty far after mid-July.
Well, I don't know the exact date, but I do know that a hearing was set for her. She went to court and was sentenced to jail. I can't control that. The time period that she was in jail and the meeting was set. And just for the record, the meeting was set before she even went to environmental court. What happens in court is not, I can't control that. That's the judge, not me.
So I'm not sure what you can and can't speak to, being that
It's an open case.
an open investigation, but it's, I get little bits and pieces of information here and there. Is the upcoming classification, is it going to be for a single dog or all 5 of the dogs? Because it's my understanding that it was 1, so
She
if it's.
requested for 5.
She requested for 5?
She requested for all 5, and we have all 5.
Okay.
Who requested for all 5?
Who requested
The owner of
for-
the dog.
She, re-
The owner
so
of the
all 5
dogs.
dogs were, I don't know all the,
And I'm not going to discuss that.
right, but, okay, so all, that means that all 5 are being,
So all 5 have to be held, even though only 1 had the bite?
That is hearsay, and I'm not going to discuss it. The judge will make that ruling.
Well, that was kind of a yes or no question.
The judge will make that ruling. I can't make that ruling.
Yeah, it's active, so you have to, you got a limit to what you have information on.
Okay. I thought all 5 be classified. Was it yes or no?
Right, that's what I was under the assumption as well, but.
regarding quorum not being met and multiple positions being open, I know in past meetings, the city was going to go and get some of the positions, like the Paul's voting position, switched to where, like, she was back to a voting member. Do you know if that's been done yet?
That's not done by us. So the board, the Animal Control Advisory Board, can make a recommendation to the city manager.
They did, starting like spring of 2023.
You did, I'm sorry.
The board did.
Did what?
They made the recommendation for for her spot to be moved back to a voting, and it just hasn't, nothing's been done after that.
Okay,
After
so-
it was voted, so just didn't know what the process or,
Okay, so the process is once I've received it, I would then forward it to the city manager's office, and then he would make any recommendation to the council, because that is a council action, that is not
right.
my
And I
action.
think the board, and I wasn't on the board at that time, but I definitely know that the board at that time was under the impression that those were the steps being taken, just so we could get the spots filled.
Is it
you
in
know.
the minutes, Katrina?
Yes, it's in the minutes. I think Canito was working on it.
Okay, so if you would please just send me those minutes and let me go ahead and forward it myself.
March 2023.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Just regarding Shannon, the Parvo topic, and there might not be an update at this point, but do you know if she had heard back from the Georgia Public Health about the soil testing for the play yard?
We were given the names of several, so, excuse me, so the health department graciously gave us the name of several local, I'm gonna call them scientists for lack of words, engineers, if you will, that are capable of doing the soil sampling. We've reached out to all 4. One is in Ellerslie, one was in Phoenix City, one was in Columbus, and I want to say the other one was in Catala. But to my knowledge, I do not know if we have been contacted back, but I do know we did call them. And we can follow up on that. And let me say this as well in regards to that. So let's just say hypothetically, we do find that the soil is contaminated, and I think we all feel that it is, and we take the measures to clean up the back. What we need to know how to prevent it from happening again. Does that make sense? That is not going to cost hundreds of thousands, number one, or number two, that would require more staffing to keep it clean in order to be able to use it. So those are some of my concerns in looking at that back play yard area. But yeah, we'll go in that
Yeah, 'cause-
direction. But
and-
any suggestions would be appreciated.
Well, and I think at a meeting last summer, summer of 2023, Ms. Johnson had mentioned that she was going to talk with somebody in the city to see what was approved to be able to put concrete over. But we never heard.
Well, I can tell you,
back
because
to
I'm over
see.
facilities maintenance as well, that if we put concrete back there, we also have to install drainage and water to be able to keep it, and that's expensive for an already existing building. So when I said that, I was looking for a different alternative possibly.
What about
But if that's
artificial-
the only way we can go, then we'll have to find the funding to do
Yeah.
it.
What about artificial turf?
Well, again, artificial turf is porous,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which means you have to keep it clean.
But you could spray chemicals that would kill parvo,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
similar to concrete, but
Yeah.
not
Wouldn't
concrete.
kill the
Yeah.
grass.
And it does have drainage.
you still have to have some form of drainage to take because you got to wash the chemicals
That's part of the
off.
installation. You have to do about, well, at my home, 10 inches
Mm-hmm.
underneath, they do backfill with gravel and whatnot. So there's,
Mm-hmm.
the installation's a little bit more extensive, but,
Yeah.
but there is drainage.
Okay. We can look at that, definitely.
Just my personal opinion is I hate to spend a lot of time on something that can just get reinfected right away. You know, like we all
Exactly.
don't, you know, that's, so,
Yeah.
spending our time wisely, doing what's gonna be best for the staff and and the animals, you know, and be able to keep it clean, because a soil test, I mean, it has parvo right now, it's gonna have parvo again one day if it's soil, I mean, you know, it's a shelter, so that's, so, yeah.
So drainage would be a good investment.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Shannon? Yeah. Okay, well, the next item on the agenda is the bylaws. I've been doing some research on these bylaws, and I've gone all the way back to March 2021, which is the furthest back the minutes are accessible. And as of March 2021, they've never been approved, the bylaws. And my understanding is that the board works off the ordinances. According to the clerk of council, all the boards work off the ordinances and don't have their own bylaws. And so, but these may have been submitted, I don't know, but they've never been approved. According to the minutes.
So I think the minutes were done in March 2023 when Ms. Fryer was the chairperson, and they were approved then, the final bylaws. Yes, but the clerk of council doesn't have to approve those because you work off the ordinance there, and the board would just be engulfing it. We had a discussion drill with Lucy about that when they first came to part.
In January of 2024, the minutes reflect that there was discussion about the bylaws and proposed changes were made? Okay.
Yeah, that was by Ms. Johnson.
And so I don't have that it was approved in March of 2024. By the city council.
They weren't done by the city council. We spoke with, this is when they first came to pass. We spoke with the city attorney when we were doing those bylaws, and they said this is what the board would function off of, but the actual council goes by the ordinance on the composition and things of that nature, because that's detailed by them. But you can have a set of bylaws, but they're not into the ordinance. They don't put those into the ordinance.
And if I'm not mistaken, the request for bylaws was made by the board whenever they first started talking about them,
Yes.
coming up with bylaws that the board would,
That was
work-
2021,
Okay,
June of 2021.
yeah. So 3 years ago, the board at that time wanted bylaws to govern the board. And I think that's where these derive from, but they don't have to be approved by the clerk of council, nor do they have to be approved by the city council. These were bylaws that the board at the time wanted to have put in place.
That's interesting, because that's not how I read the ordinance.
Okay.
So I'll go back and research that. But I don't see any vote in here on the board approving them.
It was,
So there was no vote.
I don't,
no.
So they haven't
no,
been approved?
No, it was, Ms. Fryer had put it forth, and everyone, I believe, voted on it then.
It's not in, I have the minutes
It's
from
in
the
there.
last 3
I
years.
think it states it in there. The conversation is, these are the final bylaws, and it was voted on. But I'll go back and look.
thank you, Katrina.
I'll go back and look.
Yeah, I think they had, the board at the time all verbally agreed, and that Kenita said that she would submit it to the clerk of council, but I don't think an official vote was
It's
ever
not,
done.
yeah, it's not in the
Right.
minutes.
Okay,
So if
I'll
you
check
go
on it.
back and check for
I'll go
us,
back and check.
Katrina.
All right, I know we are also asked by Judge Smith to set a date for an appeal.
I don't know anything about that, but we are more than welcome to set a date for an appeal.
He wants it set by October 4th.
I don't know anything about a judge's order, but what I'm saying I wasn't in court. I don't know
No,
anything
but
about it.
he sent it out.
Sent it
I
out
have
to
a-
who?
I have a copy of it.
I've not received that.
Somebody must have sent it to you somewhere because he stated in court. The city attorney, I guess, should have sent it to you then.
Well, hold on, Ms. Riley, not necessarily. Now, we have an attorney that's working in conjunction with that court, but I've not received anything from that attorney other than in discussions talking about the fact that we can set a date for that hearing, and I'm willing to do that.
Okay, it needs to be set by October 4th at the latest.
The date that you all set is the date that you all set.
Okay, so we can set it right now? Okay,
But just keep in mind that the date that you set, we have 10 days to notify the owner, all witnesses, the victims of this hearing. So if you set it for the 4th, then the earliest you're going to be able to have the hearing will be the 14th, 10 days later.
no, we have to tell her 10 days from now.
So look, go back from the 4th and count back 10 days. Because we have to notify the owner of the dog, all of the witnesses, all of the victims, to ensure that they know that this hearing is going to take place.
Right. We could
by
send it out
ordinance-
tomorrow for the 30th. We could send it out tomorrow, which is the 20th, for the 30th.
We can set what out? Are you saying send the letter out?
This is the judge's orders.
I don't know anything about a judge order, and I can assure you that if there was a judge's order, that I would have a copy of it, but I do not. Tyler,
We were all in court and heard it.
do we
and-
have an order to have it done? This is our, so you can set it from 10 days to today.
10 days what?
From today, if you like.
Yes, right. So the 30th.
Is that 10 days?
Well,
Can you
tomorrow's
get
the
it out
20th,
tomorrow?
so, yeah.
Has to be certified mail,
I know.
so I can't send it out tomorrow.
Okay,
But it takes a little while for the mail, but I will send it out.
okay.
Do we have a time?
So do we need to make a motion? I'm brand new to this.
And I do have another concern is, since we are the voting members, we all would absolutely have to be there. So I don't
course.
know, and so I don't know how our lack, like, I guess I just want to reinforce, like, the
Make sure everybody's
importance of
scheduled.
getting our board fully filled too, so that way if somebody is sick or something, that
You have a
all the
quorum.
pressure's not on, yeah.
That won't happen in 10 days.
I know. I'm just pointing out the
know.
importance of why we need to get all the
Yeah.
positions filled, because of stuff like, stuff comes
Yeah.
up like this, and,
I would like to say that we do have 4 vacancies, 3 of which are a direct result of the way the ordinances are written. So that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, can we set a time for the 30th?
Yes, the 30th is a,
I'm not in town on the 30th, but I'll be here for the 1st. Can we do it on Tuesday?
On the 1st?
If I need to be here, then.
Yes. All right. Let's do it for the 1st. That'll give you an extra day, Ms. Pearson, to get the, yeah. So yes. Let's see.
What date is that?
Excuse me, skipping. October the 1st is on a Tuesday.
Can we do Monday or Wednesday? And I only say that because Tuesday is a council day, and if I have to be in council, I don't know how long we'll be in council.
Okay, Ms. Turner won't be here Monday, so
Okay?
then we're looking at Wednesday the 2nd. All right. What time would be best for everyone?
I won't be here on the 2nd. I'm only available on that Monday.
I'm sorry, I'm
We
gonna
also-
have to, excuse me, I'm gonna have to defer that, and ask them, the CCG crew, because
Well, I
they
was
have to
getting ready to
come
say
in,
that.
and I have to make sure of their schedule. So if you want it done on Wednesday, I'll get with them and see if they're available, and then it'll either be here, if it's open, or it will be down at Public Works. But I have to make sure his schedule is according to ours, because it has to be taped.
You do that? I don't do that as the chair?
No, she's
No.
doing it. She's just letting you know.
Yes, I do that, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna speak with them, as a matter of fact, before we leave.
So Anna Claire is absolutely correct. We need to make sure that everybody's schedule can accommodate that date to include CCG TV.
So I can send an email once I find out the location. I can send an email. So is Wednesday the 3rd?
Well, now we're looking at Thursday, the 3rd, because
What's
Ms.,
the latest you can do on Monday?
what's the latest we can do? Like 5 o'clock?
Again, we have to double
We have
check
to,
with
I have to
the.
check with them.
Yeah.
What's the latest that you can do? Like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the later is the better, because I'm coming back in town.
driving back in town that day.
The latest,
Could we fly you in?
that'd be lovely. That just 4 or 5.
Usually we'll do it about 5:30. So I'll see if they can do it Monday at 5:30, and that's October the 1st. If they cannot do it that day, then, I'm sorry, September the 30th. If they can't do it that day, then what would it be the next day?
I think it's
Ask them if there's a
Thursday.
different time they could do it on Monday. If they can't do it at 5:30, maybe they could do it at
But she said she
3:30.
needs to have it later.
She said she'll speed.
We don't want her to speed. So I'm gonna check and see what would the next day be, Wednesday? Would that be Wednesday or Thursday? And I can email you all once I confirm everything, because I can't tell you you're gonna be there because they have, yeah.
So email would be the fastest way to do that, yeah.
Yes, I can email you all once I clarify. So what, Thursday would be the next one after the Monday, right?
To have a quorum, yeah.
Okay, all righty. Jarrell, how is your schedule looking on Thursday?
I'm open Thursday.
Okay, all right, and then this would be a 3 o'clock meeting on Thursday. Okay, I will check and confer with them, and then I will email the members and get you a date and a time.
And that would be held here.
We don't know, I have to see if this is gonna be available, I'm not sure.
Okay.
They have a whole calendar that's already filled usually, and you have to put in for it.
And we don't take precedence?
No, we don't.
Quick question, just for clarity. What's the, and I probably should know this, but what's the rules around virtual meeting? So does a person actually have to be in person to be counted?
It should be
as part of
somewhere
the meeting.
in our bylaws.
Well, I knew we, during COVID, I knew that was, I just didn't know if that was just for temporary purposes or what.
In the bylaws, you have a copy of it?
Yeah, I
If you
should
look back where
probably
it
know. I
says
just
the
wanted to-
meetings,
September 30th,
And then our other option was the 3rd at what time?
and y'all, in here, and actually, I'm reading here, it says that, given notice to all members and staff, date, time, and place, purpose of the meeting, and it says 2 weeks' notice for the public notification. And that's what it usually is, 2 weeks.
Well, that's why they're trying to set the meeting now, so that we
Yeah,
have that
but they were
time
saying 10
period.
days, Drill. It's 14 days, because it has to go out for the public to see for the 14 days.
Well, we're also trying to follow the judge's mandate.
Oh, okay.
I think he supersedes us.
I don't see anything about the virtual, do you all?
I don't think that's an issue, Katrina, but I would recommend that you call the clerk of council to confirm that that will be acceptable. If a
10
vote
days?
has it- No, the virtual. If
The
a vote
virtual?
has to be taken.
Okay, I'll get that information for you. I'll email the board.
Thank you. I mean, I plan to attend in person. but
Okay.
If something were to happen, like I don't want a barrier
I
in
know,
place.
right?
Okay.
All right, I will check and I will email you all.
Okay, I do know that other committees have met virtually. But that's a possibility.
I haven't seen any lately. We used to because of COVID.
Right. I mean, there are other committees in existence for the city that have met virtually.
I'll check.
Okay.
Sam.
Okay. Ask, yeah, the clerk of council would probably know that. And I'm looking back through my March notes from 2024. I can't find anything about the bylaws. I see something in here about a new subcommittee to discuss SOPs, and I see something in here about getting the PAWS representative the ability to vote. There's nothing in here about the bylaws. So that's something we really need to research, because if they're not valid, then, we go by the ordinances for sure. Okay, I had asked, in March, we had a subcommittee meeting for SOPs. And when we met, my response was I couldn't find any SOPs, standard operating procedures. But Ms. Johnson said we do have SOPs, and I had asked that they be brought to this meeting. So I guess they're not here?
They're going to be emailed. Is that what you're going to do, Katrina?
Yes.
It's 180 pages.
It's
And we weren't-
120, I think 120 something
120,
pages, so I will
yeah.
send those to you electronically. And that's just a draft version that the other committee was working on. The other subcommittee before then was
Right.
working on.
That's the draft from a couple of years ago, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So those never got approved?
Not to my knowledge, no, ma'am.
And who
They've been
approves those?
constantly updated. I'm sorry?
Who approves those?
They're standard operating procedures, so I would be the one to approve them.
Oh, so you haven't done that yet?
No, ma'am. I haven't got a final copy. It's in draft.
The draft is the final copy.
Let me clarify some information for you all.
Okay.
The previous board that we had, we did have a committee for that, and the board never finished them.
Right.
COVID happened, and then other people went other places that were on the board. So the board just was totally just dismissed. So that's why it was a pause in completing those.
A 2-year pause.
Yeah,
Okay. Just checking.
all right.
All right, according to Robert's Rules of Orders, we're supposed to see if there's any old business. Yes?
It's not really old business. Sorry. It's not really old business, but I do have an agenda item that I'd asked a few times that the city council had asked the board to discuss about the tethering revisions that they're discussing.
Yes, okay.
But I hadn't heard back. I don't know, when city council asks the board to do something, who puts that on the agenda, or what's?
So what happens whenever a counselor requests for an action, it's called a referral. And we have a referral database that the administrative coordinators that oversee the council's activities, I guess I don't know their proper titles, I'm sorry about that. But they go in and they submit the referral, and it goes to each department that the referral is over or works within. I did go and check my referrals, and I did not have a referral on tethering. Now, that doesn't mean that a counselor didn't bring it up. It just means that they hadn't put it in the system. So I have sent an email asking if that is the case, could we go ahead and get the referral put in so I could go ahead and respond to it? So that's what I'm waiting on, okay? But that's how those work, that's how that works.
So I guess that's just kind of moved to our next meeting then, probably? Or do we just,
I mean, we can definitely bring it back to the board if that's what you want to do for them, for the board to discuss that ordinance, that's not a problem. It's just a matter of submitting it to your chairperson, who will ask for it to be placed on the agenda,
okay.
okay? That's for anything, though. Let me just say that, pertaining to the ordinance.
Do board members have to give 14 days, like, notice for the agenda, or 10-day?
I don't
That's what
think,
the
is that in the
bylaws say.
bylaws?
So what if we wanted to adjust that?
Yes.
Is that possible? Because that's a little bit too much time. I
think
think it
so.
needs to mimic city council and the public agenda, where like the Friday before the meeting, you have up until,
Well, absolutely, that's why I was double checking on the bylaws, because that's 2 weeks.
yeah.
It's excessive.
So if the board wanted to change something that's in the bylaws right now, what would that process be?
Well, according to
It's up to us,
what we've been told, we would decide that.
right?
Doesn't have to go anywhere, just us. Okay. Also, I was asked by a volunteer, since the shelter is going to be opened again on the 24th, they would like to go in the morning and not have to wait till 1 o'clock to go in, because there's a lot they want to do.
You're asking permissions?
Yes, they want to know if they
Okay.
don't
I'm
open
going-
until 1.
I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Because we, as a division, a shelter, we have a lot to do in preparation to make sure everything is set for our volunteers. So nothing should change. I understand that they've got a lot to do, but we do too, because we'll start intaking again, and that's a whole nother process. So I'm gonna ask that they be patient and allow it to stay as it is, and they'll come in as usual and go right to work.
Well, and the point was, they've got a lot of pictures to take.
I understand
They're the
that.
ones that post that.
I
on the-
understand that, and just like they have a lot to do, what I'm saying is, the staff that's responsible for that shelter also has a lot to do.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask for the respect to allow them to get their feet back on under them, because they'll be taking in intakes, which puts the shelter in a totally different mode than it has been for the last couple of weeks.
All right.
That's
So
all.
that's a no.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a no. Okay. Is that everything?
I don't want to leave without knowing what we're doing with the classification. Is it 10 days, is it 14 days, so that we have some sort of a date?
You mean the letter to go out?
Correct. For.
I thought it was 10 days.
14 days, correct?
It said 14 days, that's in the bylaws.
Okay, so 14 days.
But are the bylaws valid?
But I'm gonna have to wait until I can get confirmation. You all stated on Monday, that's September the 30th, or on Thursday, that's October the 4th, correct? So, once I get it scheduled, I will send it out to you all, but I have to have it scheduled, and I have to coordinate with them.
Where will you verify that 10-day to 14-day?
10 days is what you have to give the hearing for.
That's what I thought, 10 days.
14 days is what you have to give public notification for.
Okay. Well, under these extenuating circumstances, with the judge's mandate, I think that we need to do our best to do that.
To see Monday, September the 30th, or is that Thursday? I will send an email out to all board members and let you all know. I have to coordinate a location, I have to make sure CCG is available to take it.
Okay. Do you think Mrs. Johnson will be available for the next meeting? Because we've had a lot of questions that couldn't be answered.
We'll find out.
Okay.
I do have a recommendation that I would like to make, though, in talking about the board and the composition of the board and requesting to have the PAWS representative to have a voting right on the board. I would like to also add that the rabies control officer, in my opinion, should also have a vote. The Department of
rabies
Health.
control officer?
The Department of Health.
Oh,
Christie. The Department of Health. That's who they work for.
Well, we'll take that under discussion and see. I will say that I've looked at all the boards that the city runs, and none of the boards have as a voting member the director of that department. So I think that's something we need to look at, too. I know
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
that in 2021, it was changed, that you as the director were given a vote and PAWS was taken away. So, and I think that had something to do with the MOU or the
No,
RFP?
ma'am.
No,
Okay.
Ms. Riley, that was totally done by the council then.
But the reasoning is what I mean.
No, they were doing an investigation on the board of the records, and that was something that council did. Council
Okay.
changed that.
But that wasn't just on this board. That was the investigation on all boards. And they were looking at the composition of all boards. And then that's where that came from.
Okay.
Okay?
I think we need to look at that again. I definitely think PAWS needs to have a vote.
And I just want to say, like, I know we said we can get to that, but is there anything we could actually do today? Like, if it's anything we want to change in the bylaws or talk about the composition of the board and how to make edits to the ordinance to get those positions filled? And also, I want to see if y'all are willing to meet maybe in October. Maybe meet in October and November. I mean, I think we can all agree that,
We've got a lot on our plates, yeah.
we're not in a
I
good
mean,
place right now.
yeah.
Yeah, our animals in this community are not in a good place. Staff is, I mean, we're in crisis mode. So I'm willing, I would love to be able to meet, set a date now. I don't want to push it off, or 2 options for a date, for October and November. I know with the holidays, it gets, kind of crazy, but, that's just my 2 cents.
I agree. Yeah.
Because to get any of these ordinance changes for the composition of the board, I mean, that's a month, 2-month-long process as it is. So we need to get a draft in to, I don't know, the city lawyer or city attorney. I don't really know how all that's done, but I mean, clearly
I think the
revisions
path is the city
need to be
attorney and
made.
the city council. I think.
yeah.
I'll double check that.
Have to change what?
Where it talks about, do it.
Are you
Well,
talking about
No, I
ordinance?
mean, the quarterly meetings, I was just wanting to do an extra meeting for October and an extra meeting for November, just because of everything that's going on. But no, what I was asked, what I was kind of talking about there was, basically the verbiage and how, the vet positions, that's not fillable right now.
Are you talking about the composition of the board?
Yeah.
So what you can do is you make a recommendation to the city manager, who then submits it to the city attorney, who then the city manager determines if it goes on his agenda, and then it's given to the council, and then they discuss.
As a board. Like as a board, we give that to the city manager.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So what you would do is you would just basically make a decision of what you want it to look like, and then Katrina would, or better yet, would send me a reminder, and I would send up a formal request to the city manager and the city attorney. The city attorney will vet it for legal challenges, and then the city manager will make the decision when it goes before council, and then council will make the discussion and make a vote if necessary.
And I'm confused, why is the city manager involved in that?
Because that's who we work for.
Right. Well, we all work for Columbus, Georgia. So
but that's who I have to answer to. I answer to the city manager. The city manager works in conjunction with the city attorney for legal issues to make sure that there's no legal challenges. And then the city manager, I'm sure, discusses it with the mayor, and it goes on one of their agendas before the council.
Well, so in 2026, we'll see some changes made.
I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what's going to happen in 26.
All right, we'll see if we can't speed that up a little bit.
Yeah, so if we were to meet again in like the beginning of October, or not the beginning, and maybe look at the council dates for October and see if we could meet before then to be able to turn in something.
Well, the second Tuesday in October is the 8th.
Oh, yeah, it's always the second and the fourth. Okay. So I don't know if we could, since we're meeting for the classification right before that, I don't know if, I don't want to ask too much, everybody to be having to go the next week to a meeting, but,
I do think the sooner we can get all this,
I
In
mean,
writing,
just
the
an
better.
example, the licensed animal rescue position, that position has been held by an outside of Muskogee County resident for 9 years I've been here. And just now it's being blocked. So there's literally nobody able to fill that spot because at the two facilities, none of the employees live in Muskogee County.
exactly, that's
So
one of
that
the things
position
we looked
literally
at.
cannot. So if we're going to go back to what it exactly says, then we absolutely need to revise that because right now it's not fillable.
Right,
So,
that's just one of the three. There are three positions that
Yep.
are being
yeah.
held up. Okay,
So if y'all want to, I don't know if there's any other thoughts about meeting in October.
I'm fine with meeting in early October.
I am out of town the second week of October, but I can have a draft of my recommendations to you guys via email or for the meeting. I don't have the vote anyway, so I can just, yeah.
Okay.
My presence wouldn't necessarily be important, but I can certainly give you my 2 cents beforehand.
So, okay. And I'm willing to meet before the 8th, if that's something.
Okay.
Do you want to do we want to try to pick a date now? Or,
I think we should.
Terrell, what's your,
It really doesn't have anything to do with the council's actual meeting because it has to go through other steps before it even hits.
So it
Gets to
doesn't
the
matter.
council.
so it doesn't matter?
Right.
It's not going to happen in a timely manner.
Okay.
Certainly not in a day.
No.
Right.
I think the rush.
So maybe set it for the second or third week of October or whatever. Y'all just let me know.
All right. What day's good for everybody?
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Just because I think you're on point. I think meeting again is great. But why don't we let Katrina get with CCGTV, because we're talking about an official meeting, right? And provide us with the available dates that this facility is open, and then we base our meetings on that availability. That way, we know this area is available, and we work around that schedule, because if we don't, that's a problem, am I not correct? Because it has to be recorded. If that, I'm just making
Yeah.
that suggestion.
Do you know the turnaround time usually? Do they get back pretty quick, Katrina?
She can go in there right after we finish meeting and find out what
I
their
was going to say,
calendar
it's not
looks
5
like.
o'clock, we could call right now.
No, it's right here. It's in this building,
You what? I'm sorry.
behind the glass, right here.
Yeah, I
That's
can
where
go
their
see them
office
after
is.
the meeting, and then I can send it out to you all, the available dates. But that's not the only thing I have to check. I also have to reserve the room here for
Right.
council,
Right,
the chambers here. So it's twofold.
right.
So that's why I need to have time to research. I can send you all dates and times, and then you all can let me know when you want to have those meetings, but I have to do both of those.
Okay. So we need to wait and hear that then.
Same for November too, if y'all are okay with it.
dates for both.
For October and November, yeah. And also for Stacy's hearing, of course. The dogs, yeah. Okay,
I do have one thing. I know I listened to city council last week with the presentation, and there was a slideshow about an RFP, a proposal coming in. Is that something that the board needs to be?
I am actively working on that right now.
Is that something the board participates in, or?
Now, I've never seen it happen in that manner, so what I do is I have to create the document with all the desires. You know, I would love to get your input, that's fine. However, because it is a procurement process, it is not a council action process, it goes through the state of Georgia's procurement process. I have to give our procurement manager a document, a document to go by. She goes through it, she makes sure that everything for Georgia procurement is adhered to and done in the appropriate format and everything else, that it has everything it's supposed to have in it as far as procurement is concerned. And then she will submit it back to me. I have to provide for her a committee of individuals that would go over this document and be the, the vetting individuals that will vet the vendors who submit their proposals. And then from there, they will award if we get any proposals. Now, when we did it last year, I believe it was last year, we didn't get one proposal. Nope, let me take that back. We got one, but there were some challenges in it, and so it never came through.
That
Yeah, we
proposal
got
was-
one, but
it
there
would
were some
never be-
challenges
it
that took it off the table. So I'm just hopeful that we get proposals this year.
Because it mentioned it was going to be just for the shelter part. The contract would be just for the shelter part. So would that mean that enforcement and ACOs would still be under the city, or would that be split up, or?
No, ma'am, we're looking for, there will be options that will be available to the various people who will receive the RFP, and they can either submit a proposal for that option or not.
Did I miss the RFP last year?
No.
It was just for the veterinarian last year.
No.
Yes.
No, we put out two. We put out one. Was it just for the veterinarian? I'm trying to remember. I do so many RFPs. Wait a minute. Was it just, okay, so yeah.
That's the only one I saw. I didn't see one for
Okay.
shelter management or field
Okay.
services or anything. Okay.
I believe it had different options because it had 4 options on the last one. Did it not? It had one for full-time, part-time, after-hour.
It was just strictly for a veterinarian, though, and the veterinary services. It wasn't, are you talking about pushing forward an RFP for privatization, or
Are you talking about the new one?
Yeah, the one coming.
I'm still working on that. It will have options.
Okay.
and who decides the committee that's going to be vetting?
I do.
And how many will be on the committee?
Normally, they start at 5 different department heads.
Oh, there'll be different department heads?
Yes, ma'am.
Vetting the
Yes, ma'am.
RFP?
Yes, ma'am.
Do they make sure they bring in somebody that has experience in the field?
That's me.
Okay. Like veterinary medicine type experience, or?
They haven't in the past, to my knowledge, but I could definitely ask that question.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have somebody with knowledge of shelter management, more than one person,
Absolutely.
to be involved in vetting.
Well, if we had a vet, I would definitely ask them to look at it. Absolutely, I'd ask them to sit on it, but we don't have a vet right now.
Well, it doesn't have to be our vet. I mean, a veterinarian would have knowledge.
Yeah, I would get with the procurement officer and determine if that's legal or not. I don't
Okay.
know.
All right.
Because it's a government function. It's not
me function. It is a procurement function that has state regulations that regulate how it happens and who can sit on it. So I will check with our
Okay, yeah.
procurement manager.
I'll look into that too.
Will this be an annual
Contract?
contract?
So most of the city contracts are for 5 years with the option to renew, or 2 years and an option to renew every year for the next 3 years.
And how does that affect the budget of the shelter?
Well, if it supersedes the budget, then we'll have to go to council for approval, that's for sure.
Okay. Anything else?
So we should expect to hear something in the next day or two
Oh,
about
ma'am.
a meeting date?
Right now, I'm at 121 pages.
Do I? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
No,
so
for the meeting in October.
Oh,
I just don't want it to get 3 weeks down the line and there's still no dates, options, like I
oh
didn't know.
no, she's
like,
gonna
a
check
couple
on that
days.
as soon as we finish.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You mean for the future meetings? I thought you were talking about the RFP. I'm like, I don't know.
Do you have a time frame for that?
No, I don't. I'm working on it. Trust me, I'm working on it.
Well, oh, I don't know what I did.
You turned your mic on.
No, it did something else too. Okay. I guess the goal was tomorrow to have it, something was gonna be,
You're talking about the MOU.
I don't know, no, I don't think so. I think it was the RFP, I don't know.
Is the MOU for the shelter also?
The shelter, the MOU that we're working on right now, that's for vaccinations for our shelter.
Okay,
Yes.
so they're both for the shelter, the MOU and the RFP?
Yes, the RFP will have various options.
Yeah, okay.
Because, so I guess the MOU is kind of just like in the meantime? Absolutely. To like hopefully plan.
Until we have an RFP in place.
All right. We have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded? All in favor?
Somebody has a second?
Anna Claire.
And